Hello, and I am back with an update for my 1 year practice challenge. How good can I get at drums in 1 year? We are now 1/4 of the way through. Loads of changes, lots of little bits of new vocabulary today, and I want to talk about this. Let's get into it. So this book on drumming, The Psychology and Philosophy of Improvisation by JP Bouvet has changed the way I think about practice. And it's starting to show in the way that I'm playing, I think, and certainly showing in the way that I practice. Now, I don't want to talk about this too much, and I don't want to give too much away, because I think anyone that's trying to get good at the drums, or at least fluid on the drums, or learn to improvise, should read this book. Some of the concepts in the book I was already using unconsciously. The idea that you add something new into your playing, gain control, mix it with your existing vocabulary, gain control again, and then you can add something new in, whether that be a new piece of vocabulary, a new pattern, or a new way of orchestrating something. It's something that we kind of do instinctively, but having it laid out in such a simple and coherent way was really like mind-altering for me. It meant that the way that I've practiced, I've looked at in much more detail, and yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. The other thing it's really changed for me is how seriously I take my creative practice, which I used to just think of as a little bookend at the end of each session, and I used the exercise as the most serious part. But what this book has helped me to realise is that creative practice is where we learn all of the little addendums to the patterns, all of the little add-ons that join them together, and make these things instinctive to switch between. And that has absolutely changed my view. My creative practice is now probably the part that I take most seriously, especially in courses that I'm quite a long way in, or in vocabulary that I'm really familiar with already, that I'm trying to get faster or more fluid on. That is, yeah, absolute game changer. And I'm recording that practice way more regularly than I was because of this. So yeah, if you haven't read this already and you're a drummer who wants to get fluid on drums, or wants to learn to improvise, or just wants to understand how practice works so they can practice better, buy this. It is amazing. Okay, so let's talk about practice. How did I do in the month of June? Well, in the month of June, I got just 93 hours of practice time in. And that's owing to a couple of factors. Number one is that I got sick again and had a whole day off. And number two is that I came in under my 5 hours on a few days. And that left me, significantly under my 100-hour minimum a month that I wanted to get. Another part of that is that I work really late at the weekends, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights. So getting up at like 6 a.m. to come into practice Monday to Friday is really hard. And yeah, it's a real challenge. But, if you want to do something, you have to put that effort in, right? So that's kind of where I'm at. This month, I'm going to be thinking of a new creative solution to that problem. I don't know what that will be yet, but I need to find a way that makes it easier for me to get those 5 hours in minimum, and hopefully get more in 6 hours a day even. Okay, so let's get into it. The practice. What did I do this month? One of my main focuses this month was the inverted doubles course, because I kind of failed at it last month, and I'm on the last couple of lessons. And I wanted to be able to improvise those switches between right hand lead and left hand lead. And I spent a lot of time this month doing that. And I can kind of do it now. I'm up to around 115 beats per minute, maybe 120, as you'll see later on. Let's have a listen to what that sounds like, switching between right hand lead and left hand lead, just to a click track. as you can see, it's coming along and it's becoming a bit more varied. I reckon I'm going to need at least another month's practice on this to kind of solidify it, maybe 2. But that will be just creative practice, I think, at this stage. I'm on to the last lesson now, and that's been a pretty easy change. Let me know what you think of that down below. For hands was the JP Bouvet Paradiddles and Doubles course. I just started this like at the beginning of the last month, I think. So like maybe the beginning of June, because I wasn't really enjoying doing the Tommy Igoe warm-ups, and I wanted something that aligned with my goal of becoming fluid on drums and learning improvisation. This course has been really hard so far. It's just basically paradiddle drills and learning to move them around on the snare drum only. So, you know, using the 2/4 up-down method and moving them on the upbeats and on the downbeats, and then some connecting parts like magic 2s and magic 4s, which are just solid accents. That's kind of where I'm up to. I got that up to about 140-ish beats per minute, maybe 145 for the exercises, pretty reliably. Let's have a listen. So as you can see, it's not perfect, but you know, I couldn't play the paradiddles like that with any sort of variation. I could just play them straight and on the beat a month ago or a month or 2 ago. So yeah, it's a big improvement, and I can't wait to see what comes next. Next, fills and chops. For fills and chops, I was doing the JP Bouvet RLLK course, which is built up around the foundation of the lick right, left, left kick, which we all know. This progressively adds in more patterns, and while you continue to think simple things, counting the 4s and 2s using that 4-2 down up method, you add in more patterns and more complexity. So you think simple things and play complicated things, right? Very, very, very useful way to think about playing the drums. This month we're adding in paradiddles. And the next lesson, which I started like yesterday, adds in right, left kick, and then I'll be making a progress post for that. So yeah, it's coming on pretty well. Here's how it sounds now with a comparison of the first month I started. So 3 months ago, 90 days ago versus now. And yeah, I think that's come on really well. It's really starting to sound more complicated than just groups of 4 and 2, right? So with the syncopation that I'm going to add in next with right, left kick, I think it's going to sound pretty cool. And we're going to have some pretty cool vocabulary built up there. Last but not least, I've been working on my groups of 5 and 7 still in the right left kick course, which is like a huge coordination challenge for me. Predominantly, I've been spending every day half an hour at least on the groups of 5. And let's have a look at what they sound like. So yeah, as you can see, they're kind of getting up to tempo. This month I'm going to be learning to switch between them and switch between right left kick as well. So I'll be mixing in right left kick. I'll be mixing in right left kick with all of those 5 patterns and changing them around on the fly, learning to improvise with them. And then I'll be adding that into my existing vocabulary. Speaking of the existing vocabulary with the right left kick course, I have been doing my creative practice every day. While I was studying the 7s, I kind of left it alone sometimes, the creative practice. But since reading that book, I have really made sure that I'm doing the creative practice on this course. And here's how the overall vocabulary is sounding right now. Okay, so that kind of wraps up what I've been practicing this month. What am I changing going forwards? So I've almost finished the inverted doubles as flow grooves courses. I'm going to be switching that to creative practice only mode in a couple of weeks when I've finished the last lesson. And then I'm going to be trying to edge up the tempo. Currently it sits around 115 and 120. And I kind of want to be able to do it up to 130, I think, and have it really fluid and be able to switch between any of the patterns really easily and flexibly. So yeah, I'm going to be doing that. Then aside from that, in the right, left kick course, I'm going to be adding RLK for like some syncopation. And then that's the end of the main body of the course. So I'll be moving on to doing the same with that, speeding it up and trying to get it more fluid, working on creative practice every day, probably for like 45 minutes. For both of those courses, at least 45 minutes, I would think, of just creative practice at varying tempos. For hands, in the Paradiddles and doubles course, moving on to how to play fast. Yeah, I'm just starting that, so we'll have examples of that next month, but hopefully we're going to see some speed increases way above that 140, 150 mark that I've been able to do previously. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Speed increases are always welcome, and you know, we all covet speed, right, as drummers. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. And then finally, what we have is the right left kick course, which is, you know, all about syncopation for me and all about learning these odd odd groupings at the moment. I'm going to be continuing to work on the 5s. I'm thinking that I'm going to get them pretty well done by the end of this next month. Able to mix them up and mix them up with right left kick, so I'll be putting them into my main vocabulary, and we should start to see some really interesting grouping patterns and sounds. This is a big challenge for me because of my left foot timekeeping. I want to keep left foot time all the way through this, right? So switching between groups of 3, groups of 4, groups of 5, or making up groups of 7 and 9, and keeping up that left foot is going to be really cool sounding but really challenging. Okay, so every month so far, I have played out a song by Tim Bolters, who's linked down below if you want to have a look. And I decided to play out with the inverted doubles course because I've been, playing it a lot, and it was one of my real challenges this month. But I've just listened back to my takes, and it's not really good enough. I don't really want to put it out there, but this is about practice, right? And it's about making mistakes. So you can hear what it sounds like at the moment. This is probably about 10 beats per minute faster than I'm comfortable with. And I kind of had a go at it a few times this week before doing this today and thought, yeah, that's kind of okay. But listening back, it's not. So here you go. Here's what it sounds like to try to do something. Eventually, we'll see where the journey brings us to, but this is the work in progress and it's not pretty. So as always, happy practicing and enjoy this. See ya.